So the One Piece chapter 1127 spoilers just dropped, and it is finally confirmed that we are indeed in Elbaf. Like, we ended off last week's chapter speculating on what might have happened to Nami, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp. You know, the starting 5 crew members of the Straw Hat Pirates. Because the last we seen of any of them, they were enjoying some absinthe with Dory, Broggy, and the other giants. But then in some hangover moment, we awoke to some of the Straw Hats now vanishing. We did, however, eventually see Nami awake in some Legoland looking location, all dressed in some hot Viking looking gear, but we were never really certain that if she herself was in fact in Elbaf. She also appeared to be all alone, with none of the other crew members around near her, so the mystery remained on where everybody actually was. But now with the spoilers of this week's chapter, it is finally confirmed that the starting 5 are indeed all together and in Elbaf. You see, it states that Nami awakes to find herself in a giant castle made completely out of Lego. Even the plants are seen to be Lego pieces. Which of course we all already kinda guessed with the final panel from last week's chapter. It goes on to state that we are indeed in the long-awaited home of the giants, Elbaf. But now before we dive into what being on Elbaf without the others actually means for the future of the story, we'll first cover the remaining spoilers that were released to us. It says that as Nami is running from a giant insect, she spots Usopp, who is currently being attacked by some giant cat. The two try to fight it off, but it sends Usopp flying away with a single powerful swipe. Now first off, I understand that this is a giant cat and one presumed to be stronger than your average household pet. But both Nami and Usopp couldn't actually beat it in a fight. Like, Nami has Zeus at her disposal, doesn't she? Why the hell couldn't she actually kill this beast with a single lightning strike? But now I'm getting off topic. Back to the spoilers. Suddenly the cat transforms into a giant lion and charges at both Nami and Usopp. But just as things are looking dire for the duo, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji arrive and take down the giant lion in one single coordinated attack. Which are always incredibly sick moments to see within the series, and I do love when Oda uses a coordinated attack from the monster trio. Now, do we really think it took all 3 of them to beat this giant lion? Probably not. This was most likely just Oda using them as a hype up moment for the beginning of the Elbaf arc. Which, if we're being completely honest, is probably going to be an arc that we see for the next 2 or 3 years. The spoilers then go on to say that the chapter ends off with Nami, Sanji, Usopp, Zoro, and Luffy all reuniting with new Viking attire. And if I was a betting man, which I kinda am, their outfits are probably going to be similar to that cover page that we saw back in chapter 446. And who knows, if they've actually been kidnapped by Loki or one of the other giants, then Zoro may actually not have his swords on him. So that means we could potentially see Zoro wielding his 3-sword style with Viking blades. Which would be incredibly cool to see, and I actually kinda hope Oda does do that. We also might get to even see Luffy wielding a spear of some kind like Nika from the past. Like, if we're being totally honest, he would be totally shit with it, but just him in his Gear 5 form running with a spear in his hand would be just incredibly cool to see in my opinion. Because it would also tie back to that sun god Nika that was mentioned in the past. But now about that mysterious cat and how it actually transformed into a lion. Do we think that's some sort of devil fruit or just some sort of beast that is found on Elbaf? Well, again, if I was to guess, I'd have to say it's probably just some random beast that is only found in this location. Because we of course already have a Neko Neko fruit that allows Rob Lucci to become a cat-like beast. So I wouldn't expect Oda to reuse the same sort of fruit-like power on some random character in Elbaf Island. And not to mention, it is a reoccurring theme within One Piece that on certain islands around the world, there are beasts that are only indigenous to that location. So this cat that can transform into a lion is probably just something that is born here on Elbaf. But now as for the location of the other members of the Straw Hat crew, we actually don't have a clue where they are. They are not mentioned in this week's spoilers, but that doesn't mean we won't actually see them in this week's chapter. It just means that whatever we see from them may not actually be all that important. But now before I end off, I just want to mention something that I actually saw in Randy Choi's recent video. He says that Elbaf might actually not be one island altogether. It might be 2 or 3 connected islands into one bigger island. He then goes on to explain that each of the connected islands might actually have something to do with Denmark Viking culture and Norway Viking culture. He explains that this Legoland location that we are currently on might actually just be the Denmark Viking side. He says this because, as most of you probably already know, Lego stems from Denmark. He then goes on to explain that the location that Shanks and all the other giants are actually on might actually be the Norway side of the island. And now something that Randy doesn't actually touch on, but something that could also tie into the upcoming storyline, could be the fact that in history, Vikings were almost always seen fighting within each other. There was massive battles fought over territory and titles, with one of the most sought after titles being the King of all Norway. which I don't want to presume anything, but that could very well be the title given to Shanks. Because if what Randy Troy alludes to is true, Shanks is the leader of the Norway side of Elbaf, which would actually make for an incredibly interesting development for his character. Like, King Shanks in my opinion does have a fairly decent ring to it. And this is also something that we have seen happen before in the past, with Kuma. I'm of course referring to back on Egghead when it was revealed that he was actually the king of Sorbet. Now if this is indeed how things progress for Shanks on Elbaf, then that could potentially amount to Shanks leading one side of the island and Loki leading the other. And with the current splitting of the Straw Hats, we could very well see them meeting up again in the midst of battle against one another. But this is all just total speculation at this point with very little basis to go off of. It's just something cool that I thought up in the moment of hearing Randy Choi's thoughts and thought I'd add it into this video. But now Randy Choi's video is incredibly interesting and does bring up a lot of important talking points that I'm sure will be brought up many times over the next coming months. I'll link it down below, so be sure to check that out for yourselves. And he is just simply an incredibly cool and interesting creator in the One Piece community, and somebody you will almost definitely enjoy watching. So again, be sure to check him out down below. But now one last thing that I almost forgot to bring up is the fate of Chopper, because he is currently one of the few missing Straw Hats on Elbaf Island. And he obviously isn't mentioned in any of this week's spoilers and doesn't appear to be with Luffy or any of the others. So where might he actually be at this moment in time? But this could all very well tie back to his flashback. He could have been taken due to his connection to Dr. Kureha or Dr. Hairlook, because Chopper's backstory is also one that many said we need more detail on at some point in time. Now he could have also just been taken because somebody on the island is in need of a talented doctor like Chopper. Who this may actually be, well, that's anybody's guess, but I would tend to lean towards potentially Loki's dad, the king of Elbaf, or the king of just this side of Elbaf. Because I do strongly believe Loki becoming the ruler of Elbaf is going to play a massive role in this upcoming arc. Because why else would Oda have laid the groundwork for his character all those years ago if it wasn't going to play a massively important role at some point in time? Now I think that's going to do it for covering this week's spoilers. I will be dropping that One Piece Top 30 Hottest Females video tomorrow. It was supposed to be out today, but there was some minor complications with the edit and upload side of things. But everything seems to have worked itself out and the video now looks better than it ever did before. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe down below and turn on the bell notifications so that you don't miss it, because it will be dropping in about 24 hours from the time of this upload. But now with all of that said, I think that's going to do it for me. Be sure to leave a like down below and tell me in the comments all your thoughts on the upcoming Elbaf arc. Do you believe Luffy and Shanks will fight when they finally meet, or do you think they'll just hug it out and party the night away? Tell me all that down below in the comments, because I'm actually quite curious to know. But with that, have a great day or night wherever you are, and peace.